Uhuru, brothers and sisters. Welcome to Beyond the Boundaries. My name is Alex Morley. Uh, Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Boundaries, the show where we bring you news from the African nation and from the international socialist movement. Uhuru, brothers and sisters. Uhuru to all of my brothers and sisters in the Uhuru movement, in the African People's Socialist Party, all around the world, in the African People's Solidarity Committee. Uhuru to all my brothers and sisters in the Rastafarian community. Uhuru, one Africa, one nation. Uhuru, brothers and sisters. There's a couple of things that I would like to talk about today. But time is always on me. But the first thing that I would like to say, Checo Chairman O'Malley Yeshatilla's address in regards to the coup d'état, the coup, yeah, that took place in Bolivia recently. So go on. Can you please check out Facebook, Chairman O'Malley Yeshatilla on Facebook. He has a response to what happened in Bolivia recently, and our comrade Akili is also a part of that presentation. So please go on Facebook and check that out. Uh, in regards to, and then, that would be the official African People's Party's response in regards to, the situation that was going on in Bolivia in South America. I just want to say, brothers and sisters, nothing can stop this black socialist fire. Nothing can stop this black socialist fire, for economic justice, for freedom, for reparations, for self-determination, for anti-capitalism, to build a new socialist world. Nothing can stop this black socialist fire. Nothing can stop this. And the things that are happening in the world, we the people push back, and the system pushes back against the people. It's a push and pull kind of thing. But we can keep this movement going, and that's exactly what we could do. We can keep this Black Power, the movement to build an African nation. We are one united people. The movement to build a new socialist world. We can keep that moving. But brothers and sisters, the first thing I want to talk about is I want you to check out, just before I forget, don't forget to check out Counterpunch, check out Black Agenda, and check out Labor Start, for trade union news, international labor news from around the world. There's a story on Labor Start that's been there for a couple of weeks about Coca-Cola, Coke, and their factories and their workers in Haiti, in the U.S. and in parts of Asia, and their relationship with their workers. So definitely check that out on Labor Start. That website that gives you news about labor, international labor news from around the world. But brothers and sisters, check out theburningspear.com. There's a story on the Burning Spear from Chairman Tafarai Mugari from the African People's Socialist Party in Azania, occupied Azania. For who don't know out there, we call South Africa occupied Azania, because that's Azania is its name and it's occupied. So that's what we call it, occupied Azania. But there's a story on the Burning Spear. The title of the story is the report actually is called "The Horror of Transport for Workers in South uh, in Africa case study, the South African Metro Rail trains, the South African Metro Rail trains, and it was written by Chairman Tafara Mugari from the African People's Socialist Party at Occupied Azania, and it's on theburningspear.com. And I thought this report is important, brothers and sisters, because it's important for African people to get control of our movement, distribution, how things move, how we move, and how the things that we produce move and how we move. It's important for us to get control over these things. Uh, but the report started off, it says, in 2016, I took a trip to Cape Town with my comrade Asa to meet the protesting students in the University of Cape Town on what is famously known as the Fees Must Fall movement, and to make efforts in building a unit for the party down there. One day in Paarl, I had an encounter with a passenger in one of the Metro rail trains traveling from the townships to what settlers effectively called the mother city. As a norm, with members of our movement who are always concerned about how African workers perceive their daily experiences, I asked the brother next to me if he knows why the rail system was developed in South Africa. The brother, like I expected, could not answer the question, as African workers are deliberately deprived of the ability to apply science in anything we experience. All we are supposed to know is that the water boils when you turn on the stove, and nothing about the process involved in water changing its form when put under different conditions. Doing work in the colonial townships of Johannesburg, I realized that it is going to be important for Africans born subsequent to the defeat of the Black Revolution of the 1960s to know that there's nothing natural about the way things have been prepared for us by our colonizers. Every time I turn on the radio or television and one of the government officials is aired, the message is always the same. African workers must forget about total liberation. The least they can do is to get well adjusted to the system and make a way to survive. This has actually been the modus operandi since the 1994 ascendance of the African National Congress over the settler colonial state. Let me explain what actually inspired me to reflect on my experience in the trains of Cape Town and the eventual writing of this article. 2 or 3 weeks back, I received a message from an acquaintance showing me pictures depicting the conditions of trains in Springs, a town adjacent to the city of Johannesburg. The message read as follows: Mama Africa. That is the state of trains used by the working class. The problems of the late train arrivals is made worse by the condition the train is in. This is not just a problem with trains from Pretoria, Johannesburg, but trains from Naledi and Springs to Johannesburg. Mama Africa, something must be done. A civil suit or something, because people buy their monthly ticket without fail, but then PRASA has the gall to bring such trains. You should see how they come running out of these trains in order to go to their jobs. The trains are really in a bad state. The state of trains in the Gauteng province, Cape Town, and other metropolis of South Africa are deplorable to the least. The windows are broken, and there's usually no sign of them getting fixed anytime soon, as the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa is notoriously known for lack of maintenance of its trains. How does the government explain a situation whereby in the 2017 to 2018 financial year, over 1,000 train collisions are recorded where many people lose their lives, leaving their families without an income in this process? On the other hand of the divide of a country that has somewhere been referred to as the most unequal society in the world, you find the most affluent population riding comfortably on the speed trains that the government has named GO trains. I further state that these fancy trains for the middle class were built on a huge debt that has contributed to the current economic crisis that this country is faced with. Brothers and sisters, I would urge persons to go on the burdenspare.com and really check out Comrade Chairman Tafari from the African People's Socialist Party report from down in occupied Tanzania is a good report. And like I said, it's about, I think it's important for us to take control, take revolutionary self-determining measures to take control over how we move ourselves around and also how we move the things that we produce around movement and distribution. African people are having control and creating power over that. African workers. I think those things are important. And I just want to ask you to go on to burningspear.com and check this report out, please. Uhuru. There's another report, brothers and sisters, from, it's also on the burningspear.com. It's the NPDAM Convention, brothers and sisters, the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. I want you to go on to burningspear.com and check this out. The title of it is Doing the Damn Thing. NPDAM convenes historic 2019 convention. And it says, on September 14, 2019, members of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement from around the world gathered at 4101 West Florissant Avenue for the convening of the 2019 convention of NPDAM, themed, "The Struggle is Real, This is Genocide. Africans charge genocide and the demand is reparations." It was a weekend full of dynamic presentations, exciting workshops, powerful performances, and important decisions to determine the future of NPDAM. African people are under attack. We know this. We have been under unrelenting assault by this social system ever since the first European stepped foot on Africa and enforced his will on an African over 500 years ago. As colonized subjects, African people have only known acts of brutality being put on our bodies. We have only known wretched lives and the regular infringement on our democratic rights. Since the 1991 founding of NPDAM by Chairman Omali Yeshitela, founder of the Uhuru movement, NPDAM has stood in defense of the democratic rights of African and colonized people throughout the world. In the face of intensifying state terror police and the unlivable conditions regularly imposed on us, such as the near toxic food and the poor health care made available to us in our communities, it can only be deduced that this social system has declared genocide on our people. What African people need is revolutionary organization to combat the ongoing genocide on our people, and NPDAM's 2019 convention served as a strategizing summit for the masses of Africa and colonized people to gather and determine the future of our people. The Black community celebrated the convening of the 2019 NPDAM convention with a night of music, awards, and celebration of the ongoing resistance of the Black community. NPDAM Struggle Awards were given to NPDAM members as well as members of the Black community who have demonstrated the various strengths necessary to bring genuine self-determination to the Black community. Among the awards given was the Uhuru Swag Award, given to the flyest comrade available to best articulate the line of African internationalism to the masses, which was given to Comrade Abdullah Alexander. Comrade Olufin Ekimbe, managing editor for the Burning Spear newspaper, was given the Keffing Award, named after our late comrade and fierce proponent for the Burning Spear newspaper, Omawale Keffing. This award is given to a comrade who represents the Burning Spear in the best way through either selling the spear, writing for it, or having a genuine enthusiasm for the spear. The Growing Branch Award, given to a city or area of NPDAM that has shown the most growth in numbers, political action, or political maturity, was given to NPDAM Occupied Azania. In addition to the awards, a dynamic cultural performers from dancers to MCs to poets to singers graced the stage throughout the evening. The creative genius of the black community was on full display, making it a truly making it truly a night to remember. What we have to understand that the ground game is everything. We have to be on the ground. We have to build mass movements. We have to have campaigns. In St. Petersburg, we have the Make the South Side Black Again campaign. We won. Akili won the primaries and is now in the general election on a reparations platform. Somebody literally won saying, make the South Side Black again. In St. Louis, we have the Keep 28 campaign against ward reduction, which led us to Jesse Todd, who later ran for the 18th Ward Alderman on the Black is Back National Black Agenda for Self-Determination and won. We have to build campaigns and go to their town meetings. We have to be in the room. We have to call off sick from work, whatever we do, but we have to be in the room. They don't want us in the room, but we have to be in the room. Tomorrow we are going on a tour of our first MPDAM office, but this is only the beginning. Brothers and sisters, I would ask you to go on the Burning Spear .com and definitely check out this story. It talks about the economic development projects that we have going on, Uzi, the clothing line. It's a good report. So I definitely ask our brothers and sisters to go on the Burden Spear .com and check out the story about the report about the MPDAM, the historic MPDAM convention, Uhuru. The next thing I want to talk about, brothers and sisters, just a little bit about sports, revolutionary best wishes, revolutionary wishes out there to Carmelo Anthony, who I believe that the reports is that he's going to the Trailblazers. Seriously, last week I know I mentioned a couple of players, but the two players who I missed not mentioning was three players: Damian Lillard McCollum, and Drew Holiday. Damian Lillard and McCollum, they are two good guards. And Drew Holiday, I really like him as well. But I forgot to mention that last week. But Carmelo Anthony going to the Trailblazers, that's a good thing. That's a revolutionary, best wishes from the African nation, from the international socialist community. Colin Kaepernick getting an opportunity to try out for the NFL teams. Revolutionary greetings and best wishes from the African nation and the international socialist community. I know some ladies, some sisters out there in the reggae world that are making some new young sisters that are making some movements in the reggae world, and we'll talk about them soon. I know I'm supposed to do. I talked about The Irishman. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I remember Heat, though. I remember Heat. And the one of the best action movies ever, between Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. Heat. Yeah, who could always remember? Everybody remember the action scenes in Heat. And just a little bit about art and culture, brothers and sisters. So when I spoke about Heat just now, I was talking a little bit about art and culture. The Showtime rhythm. That's one of the things I remember. Big up. Last week I mentioned Sprague Benz and Buju Banton's new song, Trust No Phone. And I just mentioned Sprague Benz, and I thought about one of my favorite rhythms, the Showtime rhythm, 1997, eh? Big up to 97 for sure. And I don't know who got the best song on that Showtime rhythm, but all of them songs on that Showtime rhythm are good songs. So that's a little bit about sports, a little bit about art and culture, and just a community announcement, brothers and sisters. There's an article in this is the Tribune on Friday, November 15th. Young talents get chance to shine on African runway. And it's by the Tribune's feature writer by Jafari Gibson. And it says, five student designers who enrolled in the Bahamas Fashion Week Junior Scholar Program will have the chance to showcase their, their talent alongside established fashion designers Cardell McClam and Christopher John at their upcoming showcase. The two founders of Cordelius, the Bahamas' first full-figured fashion label, and the Cardell McClam brand are closing out the year with what they describe as one of their strongest collections to date, Afri King. The showcase is designed to be an embodiment of strength, confidence, and black empowerment. It will be held at November 24th at the Courtyard Marriott and will draw inspiration from the African identity and black excellence. The setting is an African palace. And in the article right here is DeJounte Forbes from Doris Johnson High School, Jessica Clark from St. John's College, Joanna Casimir from L.W. Young, Nikia Belly of from CC Sweeting, and Daria Nan of Queen's College. All of these are the young ladies who are taking part in the Afri King runway fashion show. So just want to say congratulations to those young ladies, and I want to say we have to take control over the things that we need to build for our life, to procreate, for life over and over again. The things that are social, utilities. We have to, as African people, have to take a serious role in building those things that we need. And clothes are a big part of that process. And brothers and sisters, it reminds me, what comes to mind is the kente cloth. I've wanted to speak about this a long time, but I can try to speak about this as quickly as I can. The kente cloth, brothers and sisters, is a product that comes from Ghana. Some of us are familiar with the kente cloth. The kente cloth was made intertwining between wool and silk. Now, the kente cloth, we know that the Kingdom of Ghana was a big producer of gold. Gold was something that was produced in Ghana. But how the kente cloth was produced in Ghana, brothers and sisters, was from a relationship that involved at least four different parts of Africa working together, right? Not working together, but had an economic relationship that developed this one product in Kenya called the kente cloth, which was made on the spinning wheel, somewhat similar to what Europeans would have had at the time. But the kente cloth, as I said, it was made from wool and silk intertwined together. And how all of these products came together, brothers and sisters, because Ghana had a relationship with, number one, the Kingdom of Benin, who were great artisans and makers of various just artifacts, not artifacts, things, sculptures. That was the Benin Kingdom in Nigeria. And then there was the kingdoms in the north, places like Libya and Algeria. These kingdoms were great kingdoms, and they had horses in those kingdoms. And then from the south, it was kingdoms, Mozambique. They had traders who were skilled in selling things in various different maths and calculations. So you had horses coming from the north, products, beads, and different things coming from Nigeria, from the Kingdom of Benin, and you had traders from Mozambique who were coming from the south, who were skilled traders. All of these these four things came into Ghana together that created the Kente cloth. All of those different groups would have brought a different product, and out of that product, the production of the Kente cloth would have been created. That relationship, trading horses, beads, and the Mozambique traders being a part of that process, being the traders within that process. That's what that natural process, that's what the Europeans met in Africa. Now, brothers and sisters, so some of the first persons who would have settled, Europeans who would have settled in Africa, were the Dutch, right? And they settled on the west coast of Africa. Now, when the Dutch came to Africa, when I say Dutch, these are varieties of European people. They Anglo-Saxons, they Danes, they Goths, they Jews, just groupings of European people at this time, because this is the king. This is feudalism. Africans would have met Europeans at the time when they were in feudalism. So this is a variety of Europeans. But the Dutch would have come, landed on the west coast of Africa, right? How the Dutch interrupted. The Dutch interrupted in the Dutch got involved in that process that I was talking about. And you know, one of the things that the Dutch, because the lands that the Europeans came from, these were warring lands. Europe was going through a plague. But because they were going through a process, like all peoples, their identity was connected to their environment. And a lot of these lands in Europe, whether it be marshland or because of ice, a lot of these lands would have had to be dredged out. The land was actually created. And out of that process of the water being dredged out of the land, some of these European companies developed a master craftsmanship when it came to the woodwork. So their struggle of controlling that resource developed into their mastery over the woodwork. Their mastery over the woodwork and their lack of resources within Europe had led them to an economic necessity to be into shipbuilding. Now, by the time before the Dutch met the Africans, the Dutch were fishermen, right? The Dutch had created one of the things the Dutch had created was a boat. The boat was called the bus. The bus, right? They created a boat that was bigger than most average boats, right? They realized that they went out to get the fish and they needed something to store more fish. The bigger the vessel was, the more fish that they could store. And also because the Dutch were one of the first who started to salt. Actually, when they went out, they could stay out longer if they applied salt to the fish so that they could keep the fish, right? So we met the Dutch. When the Dutch met Africans, they had somewhat had a mastery in regards to woodsmanship, and somewhat because of an economic necessity of Europe needing resources, had gone out that maritime economic, that technological development to be maritime, and naval people was pushed. That came out of the Dutch. The Dutch came when the Dutch came in Africa. They came first as traders, as persons who went into that process that I was talking about that created the Kente cloth. Because that process, the traders who did that process traveled on land throughout Africa. They traveled on land through lakes and overland. The Dutch actually came into Africa and they became the ones who controlled distribution. That's how slavery started first. The Dutch came in and controlled distribution, right? And they controlled the distribution, just how I was talking, the horses, the beads, and the traders from Mozambique. The Dutch intervened in this process and being controlling, moving the things around. And then moving the things around, they were able to supplement things that they were buying, what they were creating in the kingdom of the Dutch, of which was still the kingdom, and supplement those products into the to the, the African productive system that they had already met going on. So you had a whole, and then through supplementing the Dutch products within that system, then the more militaristic African groupings who were, and the economies weren't based on slavery, those groups, the parasitic relationship after trading, the Dutch dominating the mode of distribution and then dominating what was being produced, then they were dominating the entire economy. And this is a process going on where Europeans are also exploiting new worlds and need labor for new worlds. So for it now goes from trading now with Africans for regular things from gold or whatever to a whole economic dominance of the entire system where slaves groupings which only had slavery didn't dominate slaves trading a slave that didn't dominate no society. Now it became the modus operandi. The modus operandi. That was the economic. That was the thing that the Dutch had required because they needed a labor. They needed labor to build the lands that they were exploiting. So a whole parasitic relationship was developed, and out of that whole parasitic relationship, brothers and sisters, that consolidated the whole Dutch Empire and what they call as that entire kingdom that was consolidated out of the relationship. That's where you have your shipping companies. That's where that parasitic relationship, what we call primitive accumulation. That's where your shipping companies come from. That's where your banks come from. That parasitic relationship being created with Africa and Europe, them intervening into our process of us creating things for our life, creating things for production, distribution, and exchange, all the things that we need necessary to procreate life. Europeans intervening in that, our own natural process, and order that process consolidate in Europe and scattering Africans. We need to build African nation, brothers and sisters. That's what we need to build. So creating things, the things that we need, the things that we need for our life, clothes, food, all of that. Self-determining policies to develop that. That's part of the African nation. We need to create that, all that, to build a new form, the African nation, the new form of life. You know, that's what really transformed the world. So, Uhuru, brothers and sisters, one Africa, one nation. Check out the fashion show, yeah, Uhuru, one Africa, one nation. Uhuru to all my brothers and sisters in the African People's Socialist Party. Uhuru, one Africa, one nation.